So we are starting off with a monumental moment. The Project Fox is finally off the jack stands, and we just decided, you know what? Since it's now mobile, okay, mobile's a bit of a stretch, but it can be moved. Let's put it out into the light and have it just bask in its glory, because this car has been parked off or been standing for a very long time, as you can tell from the build up of dirt on it, which is actually painful to see. So the car hasn't been moved since the 27th of August, which is a very long time ago. So before we get too ahead of ourselves and start cleaning the car, washing it off, getting it ready for the road, well, we need to push it back and put it on stands again. However, this time at the back. And in order to get it on stands, well, first things first, we need to loosen the wheel. We need to jack it up, put a stand underneath, and then lower it. So, as I said, first things first, we need to loosen the wheel. I don't think I have to explain to you guys how to loosen a wheel. Because the bolts are not very long. Once the bolts were loose, it's time to jack up the car. Now, when jacking up the car, if you can get your jack under this brace, use this as your jacking point. Do not use the sill. As you can see on the car, the previous owner used the sill as a jacking point, and the sill is completely bent now. So, if you can, this should be your place of jacking. Do not jack on the sill, because you just bend the sill and then it just doesn't look good. Next up, we took the stand and we placed it at the back. You can see there is a part there from the body that sticks out. That is where we put the stand. We maxed the stand out. We actually placed it onto blocks to just give it more height, and that was where we just left the stand. Now it is secure, but for just extra protection, that same board that you used to jack up, well, you're just gonna put a third stand if possible. If you don't have it, it's fine, but for us, we just put it as another safety precaution. And from there, the next thing to come off was the wheel. So now with the wheel off, we can see the drum, and as you can see, there was no dust cover. Don't know why there was no dust cover, but there was no dust cover. So we had to pull off the split pin next. You just use your screwdriver, bend the ends, and then you can use a water pump pliers, or sometimes you can even just use a screwdriver and pull it up and get it out of place.
No locking plate. Ooh, this thing they over tighten. Oh. Oh. This is someone that didn't know what they're doing.
So after removing the nuts, we were then able to get the drum off, and once we pulled the drum off, we saw that the brake linings were not in the best condition. Yes, they were absolutely cooked. So one trip to the local spare shop and we got a few things, including rear wheel cylinders, rear wheel bearings, as well as brake shoes and a big bottle of brake fluid. Now, all of this came to a total of 1,150 Rand. Yes, every time we touch this car, it costs about 1,000 Rand. So, a project car is not a cheap car. Let's just put it like that. Now, what I need to do was get the grease out of the drums. Now, I'm sure there probably was a more efficient way to do it, like by using a cloth or just some other method, than me just taking my finger and pulling out whatever grease I could. So look, just enjoy the process and me pulling out grease from these drums. So while I was cleaning the grease out of the drums, my father was also doing a bit of cleaning. Now I do apologize on not having any footage of the linings being taken out or the cylinder also being taken out. But my father decided, you know what, let's not waste time. And he pulled out the linings and the cylinder while I was going to actually buy the new one. So apologies on not having any footage of that. So after cleaning up majority of the grease, it was now time to knock out the bearing cones. So to do this, we grabbed a hammer and a chisel and just started banging, started working them And as you can see, the bearings are out, and this one seal was actually giving us a bit of a problem, because with the one drum, the seal, all it took was a screwdriver and it just popped out, whereas this one was putting up a bit more of a fight. So to knock out the bearing cones, you just, as I said, hammer and chisel and just keep banging until they are removed. After getting the bearing cones out, the next job was to clean out whatever grease is left. So we grabbed some pencil, a paintbrush, and just went to town on the brake drums. So as you can see, we're really getting in there. We want to get all the grease out and just make sure it's clean and ready to go on, that there's no old grease still in there. And it's only going to be new grease once we start putting the new bearing cones as well as bearings in place. So now my father's about to put the brake linings and everything back into place, and I'm gonna try something new. I'm not gonna speak or narrate over it. I'm just gonna have you watch it in slightly faster than real time and just have you take it in instead of me sitting here and explaining step by step. Look, I'm just trying it out. Let me know in the comment sections what you think. If you want me to just keep narrating over everything, or do you not have an issue with what you're about to see, where I don't speak and just show you how it's done. Now, I do wish I was able to give you a more front-on view instead of this angle, because the angle can throw things off and it doesn't really give you the best points of view. But look, with the circumstances, with the equipment that I have, this was the only place that I was able to prop it up or just get it working. So now that we got the linings in place, it's time to put the bearing cones in place. So to do that, well, what you're gonna need is your bearing cone, the new one. You need a hammer as well as the old bearing cone that you previously took out. So once you get that, what you're gonna do is put your new bearing cone in. You're gonna take the old one, place it on top, and with your hammer you're gonna start knocking it down into place. Now what this is gonna do, it's gonna push the old bearing cone down, and that is actually gonna push the new one and get that seated into position. So once you finish knocking it down and you feel okay, you know what, it's level and your old bearing cone can't go down anymore, well, you're gonna knock it out and you are gonna see your bearing cone is now in place. So you want to do that for the big cone as well as the small one. So to do the small one, what you're going to do, you're going to flip the drum over, have the top facing you, and follow the same steps as the other side, where you're going to put your brand new cone in first. You're going to tap it down, have that seated, have that get down into position. Then once that is now in place, you're happy with where it is, well, then you're going to grab your old cone, place that on top, and with your hammer apply pressure and knock it down, and then you're going to see that your bearing cone is now in place. Or if you don't want to use the old bearing cone, well, then you can find the appropriate socket. Find a socket that fits in place, and then you begin to start knocking. And as you can see, it does a trick. The bearing cone is now situated where it needs to be, and you are now good to go to install your bearings. But before you start putting your bearings in place, you want to just grab a clean cloth, wipe out whatever grits or dust could have possibly gone in within the time that you are actually putting your bearing cones in place, because you don't want to mix your new grease and there's already grime in there. It's just something that you don't want. Once you're done wiping out your bearing cones, what you want to do is grab your grease and then you're going to start applying it very generously. You don't want to be shy when it comes to applying the grease. You just want to put a lot and make sure it's well coated within, so you know, okay, you know what, the bearings are going to be well lubricated for the rest of the time. From there, my father then took grease, put it into his hand, and then as you can see this movement, you know what, I'll just let the man himself speak. Now why are you doing this?
Push the grease inside the bearing. Grease must end up inside. Don't rub it on the outside. Wasting time. Put it inside. See? Grease part pushing out.
You can then put that bearing into place and just repeat the same process with the remaining bearings. Now don't forget, you also still need to put the seals in place. So it's really simple. Put the seal over the hole and push down. That's your seal in place. Now to just help when you are going to be putting the whole hub back on, well, you can just take a bit of grease and rub it on the inner parts of the seal just to help it slot in a bit smoother. And if you want to see how to put the smaller bearing in, well, here you go. What you're going to do, you're going to pick your bearing up, you're going to flip it, make sure that's facing down, and then push it down. Once in, remove whatever excess grease is there, and then you are ready for the next step, install.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing? Testing.
Adjusting. Adjusting the brake shoes.
Now with the brakes being done, we now move on to rear shocks. So to actually get your rear shocks out, what you're gonna need is either two spanners, or you can use a spanner and a ratchet. You can use whatever you like as long as you get that bolt out. So it is a bolt and a nut holding the bottom in place. Now for me, the bolts actually got a bit stuck, so I just put a little bit of pressure to lift up the rear axle beam, and after lifting it up a little bit, I was able to pull the bolts right out. Now with us undoing both the shocks, you can see that the axle beam does drop very low, but do not stress, it will get to a certain level and just stop. It's not going to just continuously keep dropping. Now something you also do want to keep in mind when you are working on things like this, you want to make sure your bolts are lubricated. Now to remove the top nut, what you want to find is this rubber cover right here. So once you remove that, you're going to see you have access to your nut. So what you're going to do, you're going to grab a spanner, and you also need a shifting spanner as well, because you need to grab a hold of the top metal piece there, because if you do not hold the metal tip, well, the whole shock will then begin rotating, so you will just keep rotating the shock and not actually be loosening the bolts. So near shifting and a spanner. So once you get that nuts off, the shock will then begin to lower and you can pull it out. Once you do pull it out, you do need to take the old metal plates at the bottom from the old shock. You're gonna knock that off. You can use a hammer. What we used was the handle from a jack, so just knock it off. And once you do that, you want to put it onto your new shock, because the new shocks do not come with it. So you want to take your metal plate, put it over the new shock, and then use whatever you use to get it off, to just knock it down and get it seated onto the new shock.
Yeah. If you don't put this washer on, the shock will just keep pushing right up and not be active.
So once you have your shock now looking something like this, well, you can put it back in. You're gonna follow the same steps you use to take it out. Just do it in reverse, and that is gonna be your shock back in place.
The next day.
Today, brake drums. We need to change brake drums. So yesterday, put new shocks in. Add-ons were on their way out, so new shocks are in. But today we need to update the look. We're going to clean off the brake drums here quickly. We're going to be using carb cleaner to just spray them clean, wipe them down, and then thanks for that. Then we are going to be using our blue engine enamel paint right here. This can's almost finished, but we got another one, so it's all that matters. So first things first, we need to clean. Yeah, yesterday I sanded it down with water paper. So while my father is busy sorting actual linings, putting all of that back on, I'm going to be sanding down the drum, just getting it ready for paint, because we're going to respray these as well. So what I got here are pieces of 220 water paper. I'm going to use, just give a light sanding. Got it feeling smooth, prep. So now all I need to do is spray with a carb cleaner, wipe it off, and then start applying some paint. Also, I want to put some newspaper in the holes here where the threads are. I don't want it to, how do I say, I just don't want paint in the treads. So let's just do that quickly. So after wiping the drum down, I then took some newspaper, wrapped it around the drum so the paint doesn't go all in the wheel well, on the exhaust, on the suspension. Then I took some newspaper, put it in the threads as I said I was gonna do. So now, with the newspaper being in the threads, we can now start applying paint. Now I know a lot of people like to put primer or at least silver or something as a base before spraying your actual color on your brake drums. But for me, I thought, you know what, I don't want the color to actually be off compared to the front calipers because I didn't put anything on them before I sprayed it. So I thought, you know what, we're just gonna use the glue straight onto the drum and just hope for the best, to be honest with you. And as you can see, well, I think it came out alright. And while I waited for that side to dry, well, it was time to move on to the other side. So same story, fill the threads with newspaper and just go at it with the blue can of paint. And while I have you here, I just want to say a massive thank you. I cannot believe it, but at the time of recording this, we just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm speaking for myself, my family, we cannot thank you enough for the support and for the growth that has come out of the channel. I didn't expect it. I mean, deep down I wanted it to happen, but I never actually expected it to happen. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to each and every one of you that has left a like, commented and subscribed. Just honestly, thank you. I see I messed up, yeah. I'll admit it, it's a flop there. Made a mistake there, but too much paint over there. I'm not happy about that, but it'll come together. So then, while I let that dry, okay, I'm not even gonna lie, this is skip forward a bit. This is actually my third coat of paint that I'm applying to the drum. I know it may seem like a bit much for drums because I know people use a single coat and call it a day. For me, no. I thought, you know what, I have the paint, let me use the paint. So I went over it third time and I am quite happy with how it turned out. And that basically wraps up the rear suspension now, cause I mean new shocks, the springs seem alright, and new brake linings, cylinders, it's brand new inside. So the rear is now finished. So if you guys do go on to enjoy this video, don't forget, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and honestly, once again, thank you for 1,000 subscribers and thank you for your time. Peace.